Bhaja Govindam is a Manana Stotra. Manana is reflection. Manana is internalizing. It is not so much a Shravana Stotra, which is explanation that we need to listen and understand and build our know-how about. When we read the Gita, we learn a lot of new stuff, new terminologies. We learn the equations. We learn the relationship between karma and vasanas and moksha and all of that. Bhaja Govindam is a Manana Stotra. It doesn't give us new knowledge. It asks us to think. So when Bhaja Govindam is heard and sung and reflected in a way that grasps your attention, all that does is you allow yourself to be in that constant state of reflection. So we're going to start with a rendition of Bhaja Govindam till what we have seen last week, slokas 1 to 6. And to do that, I'm going to invite my mother, who's on the call, to sing the first 6 slokas for us. And I'm always mesmerized by her voice, and I'm sure you will be too. Mom, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. Hello, friends. It's nice to be with all of you today. And let me get going. Yeah. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi nahi rakshate dukrung karane, Mudha jahi dhanagama trishna, Kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishna, Yallabhase nija karmopatam, Vittam tena vinodaya chittam, Nari sthana bhara nabhidesham, Drishtva maga mohavesham, Etan mamsa vasadi vikaram, Manasi vichintaya varam varam, Nalini dalagatam jalamati taralam, Tattvajjeevitam atishaya chapalam, Vidhi vyadhyabhi managrastam, Lokam shokahatam cha samastam, Yavat vitto parjana shaktah, Tavan nija pari varo raktah, Paschajivati jarjara dehe, Vartam kopina pruchhati gehe, Yavat pavano nivasati dehe, Tavat pruchhati kushalam gehe, Gatavati vayo deha paye, Bharya bibhyate tasmin kaye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Can melt your heart, Bhaja Govindam, for a true seeker. Can restore a lot of peace in our mind. Most of our stotras, it is said, just listening to it will give a lot of peace of mind. However, unfortunately for us, the language of most of our scriptures is in a language we don't speak or understand, Sanskrit. So we are mesmerized by the tune and the tone of it. But if you listen to it, having understood the meaning, it gives a lot of peace and a lot of reflection. And there's some magic with music, isn't it? It makes everything more sticky. As somebody said, Aditya, the reason why the lives of people on the movie screen is more interesting than my own life, Aditya, is because my life doesn't have a background music. In the movies, they have background music. So life seems more interesting with music. So it's always the combination of tune and music with scripture has always been a tradition because it makes things more sticky and it helps remember, right? It's so easy to remember the lyrics of a song, but it's very difficult to memorize 4 lines of a prose. It's because the song allows that. Yeah. You can see some compliments for the song in the chat. Absolutely. It's not done. Going to invite my mom again in a few minutes to take us through the next 6 slokas for today's discussion. What she sang was the first 6 slokas, which is what we discussed last week. But before we get to the sloka 7 to 12, let's recap the meaning of what was sung now. So as I said, Bhaja Govindam is a Manana Stotra, which means all of this are things that are not new to you, but we don't have time and urgency to think about it. Or if we think about it, our mental elasticity is only stretches to a certain point. After that, we give up. It's too difficult. Or life takes over. We get busy with we all have agendas to keep. But Shankara says, think. So think of the self, worship the self. Oh, fool, rules of grammar, which is what you are so caught up today, will not save you at the time of your death. What protects us at the time of the death is how much we have elevated ourselves to determine what the next projection, what the next life will give us. The supply, which is the world, the experience of life that you will get, is determined by how much you worked on the demand at the time of your death. Demand and supply, the original supply chain equation is in our own lives. The demand determines the supply. How do we know that? In our own lives. See, each one of us, unlike most animals, the difference in human beings is that human beings are heterogeneous in nature, in terms of temperament and personality. Then each of you have a heterogeneous personality as compared to a typical animal, which will have a homogeneous personality. Most animals are triggered by similar things, survival instincts. Within each human being, however, there is a heterogeneous personality. And can any of you tell me what I mean by that? It's not something new to you. If I tell you what, you will say, oh, yeah. What do I mean by saying each of us have a heterogeneous personality within us?
We respond to different situations at different times.
So what is the technical definition? What is our heterogeneity classified into?
Rajasic, Tamasic, Sattvic, which is again different composition for different. So the attributes are again, each one of us have various degree of Sattvic, Tamasic, and Rajasic. So which we respond to the situation.
Correct. Yes, that's right, Abhishek. Preeti, you wanted to add something?
Hi.
Sorry, who
I was
just
going to say the same.
Okay.
Sattva,
Okay.
Rajas, and Tamas.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So-
I wanted to add something there. Actually, the heterogeneous nature is also this, that with different people, our demand changes. Like for example, we may not be gossiping with certain people, but the same demand gets activated with a different set of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, between human beings, we find a heterogeneous continuum of different people. And within a human being, we find a different nature, personality comes out in different times and with different people, which we classify as gunas, right? Guna is the technical word for that, which can be Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. And you find that, therefore, no person can be discarded as bad fully. No person is discarded as virtuous fully. We have a heterogeneous personality. For example, a Tiger Woods may be highly sattvic when it comes to playing his sport. He may lack that intellect elsewhere in life, like we've seen in his life, right? He's been maligned rightly in many aspects of life. He's celebrated rightly in many aspects of life. So you can't cast aspersions just because he's weak elsewhere that he's weak everywhere. No, he probably has the highest level of hard work, intellect, integrity in his sport, and he's reached fame that nobody else has. At the same time, he's weak elsewhere. He cannot stop himself from certain lustful pleasures. The same guy who can practice 16 hours a day, wake up at 4, spend 25 years of his life going into a tapas of golf. Tapas, saintly tapas of golf. Otherwise, you cannot reach that heights of prowess in any sport. The same person has a very, very, very easy susceptibility to some other weakness. In his case, it was lust, having affairs. So you cannot classify a person as good or bad. A person is heterogeneous in nature. That's my point. We're not homogeneous in nature. You're not sattva. You're not tamas. You're not rajas. We are all sattva, rajas, tamas. We're heterogeneous in nature. It's like when your sattva takes over, when the demand of sattva comes, the supply of sattva comes with it. So the supply in his golf life is an example of a demand of sattva and supply of sattva to reach the highest caliber of sport. When passion takes over, supply of passion comes with it, right? He knew his supply facilitated his demand for having those extramarital relationships, affairs. I'm not judging right, wrong here. I'm just giving example of demand supply, right? The demand of a smoker will find that cigarette shops, which you don't even know exists in that road, if you're not a smoker. The demand of so demand creates supply. But we are heterogeneous in terms of demand. We have a sattvic side, we have a rajasic side, we have a tamasic side. Wherever the demand, where tamas shows up, the supply of tamas comes with it. If rajas shows up, the supply of rajas comes with it. Sattva shows up, the supply of sattva comes with it. All demands have supplies, and it is facilitated by the supply to quench those demands. Wherever you choose to place your attention on with steadfastness, that area of supply will grow further. So we will see later on in Bhaja Govindam, Satsangatve Nitsangatvam, we'll get there, which is, you therefore have to start with satsang, which is curating your environment and company. That alone leads to Jivan Mukti, but we'll get there later. So right at the beginning, we are listening to Adi Shankara. What is going to protect you? What is going to protect you? What's going to protect you is how you manage your demands, how you manage this heterogeneous personality that you are. What are you facilitating more of? What are you pouring fuel more into? What are you nourishing and helping in your personality? Why? Not just to become a good person in this world, because whatever the demand, the combination of demand is, so will be the supply. So when you die, whatever the portfolio of sattva, rajas, tamas is, it is in that proportion and portfolio will be the supply of the world hereafter, meaning the next projection of yours cannot be more saintly or cannot be worse than what the demand of your mind will be. It is not luck, it is not coincidence, it is not God answering prayers. All that we can say to ourselves. Demand of your mind creates supply of the mind. So what are you doing now to protect yourself from world after world after world after world is Adi Shankara's question. So when you find someone rajasic in their trade or profession trying to use the Brahma Muhurtam hours for something worldly, he doesn't say that stop it. He says reflect. what's going to protect you at the time of death? At the time of death, what's going to protect you is complete surrender and obliteration of this heterogeneous personality. Even sattva requires supply. Sattva gives serene supply, which makes your life beautiful. But sattva also requires supply. Completely obliterating demand ensures there is no supply required. That comes by realizing your true identity. You're realizing your true identity as one with the Brahman. If you look at all spiritual quests, the final motive is that. The word religion means religare. It means to bind, the Latin word of the word religion, to mean bind. Bind what? Bind you to your true nature. That is the word religion itself, the Latin word. The word yoga means union. Union with what? Union of your conditioned identity that you've assumed yourself to be, to that unconditioned identity that you actually are. Advaita says what? Advaita says, Tattvamasi, that Atman that you are in your unadulterated form, and that Brahman that you see as the hand, invisible hand behind this universe, is one and the same. So all that you are, that heterogeneous personality, sattva, rajas, tamas, it itself is conditional identity, conditioned to this experience that you find yourself in. When in your deep sleep, you lose that conditionality. You have no knowledge of yourself. In dream world, you activate new conditionalities in which you are a different person. And when you wake up again, you reactivate this conditionality. So that conditionality that you are, you get lost in that conditionality. And Adi Shankara says, at the time of death, the extent to which you are lost will be the extent to which you are lost again in your next birth. Get out of that rabbit hole and realize who you truly are. And then he goes into a series of slokas that we saw last time, which says, where is this attachment coming from in this entire thing, which is temporary, ephemeral? You know it. On any other good day, you can look life, you can see people dying, you know it, it's all ephemeral. So he says, Muda Jahi, give up your thirst to be acquisitive in nature. Wealth is an example here. Wealth here means that adult state that we've talked in. Acquisition and enjoyment. Acquisition, enjoyment cannot be your highest pedigree or highest pursuit in life. Give up that acquisitiveness in nature, selfish acquisitiveness, and devote your mind completely to the truth. And be content with what comes with the actions you've already punched in the past, which is the heterogeneity of that personality you are today is because of actions and intentions of the past. So you will bear the fruit of the supply of the world, which matches what you have done in terms of creating demand. So there is nothing to be suffering in that. So be happy, revel in what's given to you. So I'm going to go quick now because we're going to start with Sloka 7. Then he goes to the second thing that holds us hostage. First was acquisitiveness of things and passions and wealth. The second, he talks about lust. See the futility of lust beyond. See, the thing about Shankara is, he is not negating objects of pleasure. He is not telling, don't have wealth, don't marry. He is saying, remove the attachment, keep the objects. It's a very different thing he's saying. So we should not be fooled. He's not saying remove the objects of attachment. He's saying remove the attachment, keep the objects. And then life is beautiful. It doesn't leave karmic imprints on you. So keep your house. It doesn't mean sell your house, but remove that attachment towards acquisitiveness and pride there. Saying keep your family, but remove that attachment of acquisitiveness there. He's saying treat yourself physically, mentally, intellectually, but remove that lustful attachment that pervades your entire mind, that disallows you to think of Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. And then finally, he also says, considering all these, you realize that the life is as uncertain as a drop of water on a lotus leaf. So you yourself know through, it doesn't require philosophical insight, to just observation will tell you life is it's trembling on a lotus leaf. Lotus leaf is non-sticky, it's like Teflon. So it's even more unpredictable. And in that, we are so much prey to ego and grief and ego and grief. Let's go back. So then he talks about two very disturbing slokas, but great, it can bring great peace of mind if you see it in the right context. He says, how fragile is life? He's answering in sloka 5 and 6. He says that as long as you have something to provide, everybody, life flocks around you, but nobody even cares to have a word with you in your old age when your body is in tatters. Whatever value you give, that's the value you receive in return. And even one is alive, everybody will inquire about you, but when the soul departs, the body is not what they loved. So when your soul departs, it's your body, but that's not what your wife loved. She loved the life inside that body. Bhaja Govindam can also mean worship the Guru, because remember, Adi Shankara's Guru was Govinda Pada. Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda. He's saying Adi Shankara's Guru is Govinda Pada. Govinda Pada's Guru is Gauda Pada. So Bhaja Govindam means you don't have access to that knowledge. Surrender to the person who has access to that knowledge. He will take you there. Just like Nisargadatta, we've seen Nisargadatta quite a lot in this class. He's a cool guy. So Nisargadatta, the moment he heard his teacher nudge him saying, who you are, your true identity is that immutable, timeless self. He said, okay, I trust you. That's it, gone, done, matter over. so the trust placed on the knowledge and the Guru is as important. So you see that all of you may know about Rajinikanth. He's a famous actor in South India. So I was listening to this interview by one of his die-hard fans just few days ago, because I think one of his movies has got released, right? So this fan has been a fan from the 70s and 80s, when during the heydays, the prime days of Rajinikanth, the superstar Rajinikanth. Nowadays his movies are, each is a greater flop than the previous one. But there was this 80s and 90s when every movie of his would be a super hit. So Rajini has this unique USP where all of his movies will have punch dialogues, or dialogues which are larger than life, which advise people on how to live life. So all his title songs would be like, hard work is the key to success, respect your parents, do good for the society, all of these things, right? Because in South India, the actor, politics and movies are very close to each other. So you always want to you want to put your eggs in both baskets. Who knows what will happen in the future. So he always gives these advice. So everybody listens to those songs. Everybody's Rajini fans and listens to those songs. But here's this fan who was in the interview saying, because Rajini said a few things in his song, and Rajini was saying that because he's a commercial actor, the movie has to be a hit, he has to make money. Whether he means it or not, even he doesn't know. But this fan was saying, because my Talaivar Rajini said that, I was actually a very, I was a gunda, I was kind of a hired assassin, not hired thief, robber, assassin types. I was going in a bad trajectory in life. Because of what Rajini said in his songs, I changed my life in the mid-80s. I started doing good for the society. Why? Because Rajini in his song said that go towards the right path, or whatever his thing was. And then he's transformed his life. He has started some lot of social communities, doing good for society, etc., etc. And the interviewer asked him, really, have you met Rajini? No, I've never met Rajini. Then why do you take his advice so seriously? Because Talaivar said that in his song. So what I'm saying is, the extent you draw something out of it depends on the connection you have with that trust and devotion and connection you have with that. Otherwise, everything is just a piece of information. Adi Shankara can say something, or the Lord himself, Krishna, can appear and say something. It doesn't matter. If you feel that connection, and this, please take this Rajani example in context. I'm not comparing him with any of these people. I'm saying, even if it is an actor, it depends on the amount of love and devotion and connection you feel with that actor. Otherwise, it's just lines of a song. If you feel such deep connection with a person, even that one line in a song can transform your life. And there's a true story, you can Google that the guy who, and then it's very true with so many actors. I know even MGR was even probably more influential in Tamil Nadu than Rajnikant. But what I'm saying is, a little reverence and connection and bhakti and trust to a guru is the difference that transforms an otherwise normal line that you already know about to something life-changing that can transform your life. So Bhaja Govindam also means Bhaja Govindam, Adi Shankara's Guru Govinda. So he says, worship the Guru, worship the Guru. You may not see the other side of the shore, but the Guru is the raft which will take you to the other side of the shore. Therefore, the trust in Adi Shankara, the love of Adi Shankara, when you trust somebody so much, they don't need to give you a large speech. All they need to do is say a couple of words. That will be more inspiring. You know, if you're aspiring public speakers, sometimes you may be disillusioned. You prepared like a 10-minute speech, which is super cool with all the right punches, opening, body, conclusion, the punchlines, jokes, humor. So imagine you are speaking, and then Ratan Tata is speaking after you. You've done 10 minutes of awesome speech, and you've given examples of the Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. You have the perfect speech. And Ratan Tata comes on stage after that and says, you know, hard work is the key to success. That's it. One line goes. And after the event, everybody's interviewed, all the audience. How did you feel? Everybody's saying, oh, that Ratan Tata was very inspiring. They're like, what? I spent 10 minutes to give the best speech, and you admired that one line? People say, nah, that's because of the trust, credibility we place on him. You are nobody. You may have a flashy speech, but that person has walked the talk. He's a legend among mankind. So it's not how prodigal or how intense what you read is. It's about the connection and trust that you place in those words that will transform you personally. So that's why Adi Shankara in the Manana Stotra, it's important to sublimate and dissolve ourselves in Adi Shankara's words. It's not just reading it as a prose, but just dissolve in Adi Shankara's words. So with that, let's start the next 6 slokas for today. Again, very beautiful and hard-hitting slokas taken in context. So I'm going to invite my mother for her rendition of sloka 7 to 12. Mom?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks again. Balastavat क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न रक्तः काते कान्त कस्ते पुत्रः संसारोऽयमतीव विचित्रः कस्य त्वं कः कुतः यातः तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रातः सत्सङ्गत्वे निस्सङ्गत्वं निस्सङ्गत्वे निर्मोहत्वं निर्मोहत्वे निश्चलतत्त्वं निश्चलतत्त्वे जीवन्मुक्तिः वयसि गते कः कामविकारः शुष्के नीरे कः कः सारः क्षीणे वित्ते कः परिवारः ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसारः मा कुरु धन जनं यौवन गर्वं हरति निमेषः कालः सर्वं मायामयमिदम् अखिलं हेत्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश वेदयित्वा विनयामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायातः कालक्रीडति गच्छति आयुः तदपि न मुञ्चति आशावायुः. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you end with Bhaja Govindam, the first sloka again?
Sure, I'll do that. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Moodhamate, Samsare Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrum Karane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Balastavad Krida Sakta. If some of you may remember, we've seen the sloka earlier during our Kathopanishad or the Bhagavad Gita series. We've in fact seen it many times. It's a very hard-hitting sloka. It is a sloka for Manana Stotra, perfect sloka, because it allows us to reflect. Tarunastavad Taruni Sakta, Vriddhastavad Chinta Sakta, Pare Brahmani Kopina Sakta. One of the, okay, let's read the meaning and then go to the discussion. The childhood, we all have three stages in our life. The childhood, which is often lost by attachment to playfulness, and playfulness means a host of things. Youth and adulthood, which is often lost by attachment to things like the other sex, things like acquisitiveness, etc. Then that old age, the final phase of life, which is often lost by attachment and thoughts over many things, past things, regrets, should have been, could have been, would have been, a lot of desires that don't go, even if the body can't fulfill them. But there is hardly anybody at any phase in life, at any stage in life, at any age in life, who wants to be lost in the Parabrahma. Pare Brahmani Kopina Sakta. There is the biggest trick that the mind plays on us is that, we'll get to all of this at a later point in life, right? We all say that to ourselves, right? We'll get to all of this in a later point in life. We'll get to all of this at a later point in life, get into all the spiritual mumbo jumbo when I have time after retirement or when I'm 80 or something like that. Sir, if you don't have time now, you will not have time at any time. You assume you're more busy now. Everybody assumes they're busy now. For example, there was when I was in ISB, Indian School of Business, we did a little project on, because I was doing a paper with a professor there on ethics and organizational behavior. And we were just wanting, I don't want to give you the context of the paper, it's too long, but one of the things that we were asking people is, do you feel you're in, when have you felt you have been in crossroads in life? I'm not framing it properly. So the question was, when have you been most confused or in crossroads in life? And almost everybody will vouch that it's that moment in their lives now that they are in their biggest crossroads in life. The the 17-year-old would say, what can be a bigger crossroads than choosing between engineering or choosing between arts or whatever? It'll take me to very different paths in my life. So I'm in a big crossroads. A 22-year-old will say, I'm in a big crossroads in life because I don't know whether I should, what should I do next? 20 years have been led by just a structure put by the society, school, college, etc., etc. But now what do I want to do? I have no idea. A 28-year-old will say, I'm in the biggest crossroads in life now. Should I get married? Should I not get married? Should I satisfy my parents? Should I just wait for some more? What should I do with my life? I have no idea. The biggest crossroads in life. A 35-year-old will say that I worked for 12 years, accumulated some money. Should I be an entrepreneur? That's my passion. I wanted to start something. Or should I work in a company and not take risks? What can be a bigger, more complicated decision in life? A 45-year-old will be in the biggest crossroads in his life. He's kind of in the middle of life and he's confused where he wants to live, what he wants to do, how he reanimates his relationship, how he's losing few things that he assumed were there. His health is slightly fading away now. So he's the biggest crossroads in life. A 60-year-old is in the biggest crossroads in his life, right? What do I do? I'm confused. 8-year-old is in his biggest crossroads in his life. What I'm trying to say is, at all moments we are busy. At all moments we are busy. There is no moment we are not busy. There is no moment we are not in a crossroad. There is no moment where we are not confused. Where there is no moment where we will be peaceful enough to say, now I am completely ready for the path of spiritual freedom. No, as long as there are desires and as long as there are attachment to desires, we will always be busy. Balastavad krida sakta, tarunastavad taruni sakta, vruddhastavad chinta sakta, pare brahmani kopina sakta. There is this entire trap of there will be a future date where I will start to ask bigger questions is the biggest trap of life. I was attending a lecture in 2013 in the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan in Bombay, South Bombay, by Swami Parthasarthi. That was the first year I had moved to Mumbai, and Swamiji had come to town, and he has a flat in Mumbai. He has a flat of course, he lives in the ashram near Lonavala. But so he visits Mumbai often. So he was giving a lecture, and he takes a chapter of the Gita usually. And every year he gives a 3-day, 4-day lecture, 5-day. I think it was chapter 3, 2013. I was attending. So chapter 3, as you know, talks a lot about karma. So he asked the audience, as usual, who attends these lectures, sir? Free lectures. A learned man of 60 years of Vedantic study, wisdom oozing out. Who's takers? Half the hall is empty, right? Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has 300, 400 seats. There's like 100 people in the front rows. Where are the takers? There are no takers. Now he looks at the audience. Swamiji is full of wit and wisdom together, a good combination. And he's 95 now. So he was, 88 then. So at that age, you can also enjoy a little arrogance because everybody's younger than you, right? Everybody's younger than you. 99% of the people are younger than you. He scans the audience, that 90-year-old man, he's on stage, he's scanning the audience. The topic is Karma Yoga. Karma is how to act, how to live in this world. He sees the audience, everybody is in their 60s, 70s, 75. He sighs, he takes this big breath. He says, is there anybody in your 20s or 30s? He asks. So I looked around, I didn't know that there were nobody of my age there. I just attended because I like these topics. After work, I was carrying my work bag I was in Hay Group at that point in time. So my office was in Lower Parel. I took a cab, 6 o'clock, the lecture starts. I just put in that effort. I went there. I had no chance to scan through the audience. So there was nobody. And then so I raised my hand. And there's one more person who raised their hand. I think he was probably just a few years older to me. And nobody else raised their hand because nobody else was in their 20s and 30s. And you can imagine why, right? I mean, in Bombay, in South Bombay, last thing you want to attend is Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and Gita by a 90-year-old man. I mean, that's not the best way to end a week or a Friday evening. Like I'm holding you captive on a Saturday evening. That's probably even worse, a wrong thing to do than a Friday evening. But anyway, so then Swamiji looks at the audience. None of us can say that because we can't command that. We don't have the age to command that arrogance. But Swamiji says, the rest of you can go home. Everybody's shocked. Like, why is he saying? He says, sir, we are discussing karma. You're all in the twilight of your life. And now you want to learn karma. You should learn when you're 15 or 20, maximum 30. At 75, you want to learn how to live and how to act. And you've kind of extinguished most of your life. Go home. People first were uneasy, then they started laughing, assuming it's a joke, but he was still staring, so they stopped their laughter. They didn't know what to do. Then finally he smiled and said, this entire misnomer that spirituality is a retirement option where my wife and I will leave our home, attend class, then go to a shop, have dinner, and then go home and say, Friday well spent. That's not the purpose of spirituality. Spirituality is a way of life. It is not about postponing it as a retirement option. Well, devotion can be postponed. Like, I don't have time to go to temples and churches or mosques and all now. I'm busy with work. So I will do a yatra. I will do a tour to visit temples. All that can be done when you have time, because that requires time and effort. I know a lot of people who, after a particular age, do all of these tours that they haven't been able to do. That's different, right? That's different. That's like holiday, vacation. But the attitude to life, the spiritual attitude to life, is something we need to learn in now. Why? Because Swamiji is saying there, in that example of Swamiji saying, you're all in the twilight of your life. How can you learn? What he's saying is that at all stages of life, we are lost, sir. We don't have time to devote to Parabrahman. And therefore, Adi Shankara is asking the very terse sloka, what are you cheating? When are you going to have the time? You don't have the time. The superimposition of the child is the attachment of playfulness. And that goes away. The attachment goes away. The attachment takes another form as the adulthood comes. That attachment goes away. Then the attachment of the other form comes. That also goes away. But all through this life, there has been no pursuit of truth, no pursuit of spiritual liberation. That's the paradox of life, Adi Shankara says. Kate kanta kaste putra. Very, very hard hitting again. He's saying, who's your wife? Who's your son? Kate kanta. Kanta is wife. Putra is son. The children. Who's your wife? Who's your son? He's saying strange. Samsaro. Vichitra. Vichitra is strange. It's magical. Who's your wife? Who's your son? Strange is the samsara. Of whom are you? From where have you come? Aren't these the questions, brother? You need to ponder over these truths here. If you don't ponder over these truths here, what will happen? You're going to go into such samsara after samsara after samsara. Unless you decode these questions, there is no end to life. Death is not an end to life. Death is the end of the gross body. But unless you ponder these questions, you continue to be in avarana and vikshepa. And as long as you're in avarana, you will superimpose a vikshepa on top of that. And life after life, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, we'll see later. So you have to inquire. He says, look at the beautiful sequence of these slokas. He says, you're always busy in sloka 7. Then he says, when do you have time to inquire these questions? What does he mean by saying, who's your wife and who's your son? Because very strange. Who will ask you to think about who's your wife and who's your son? If at all you know anything, you know who's your wife and who's your son. So he's not asking us to ask who's that Mr. So-and-so in Africa. He's saying, who's your wife, who's your son? Unless you've lost memory, that's the first thing you can recall is who's your wife, who's your parents, who's your son. What he's asking us is, where is that sudden possessiveness that's coming? That this is my wife, this is my son. You assume your son has come from you. It's you, my offspring. Your son hasn't come from you, because your son doesn't belong to you. He might have physically come through the union of you and your wife, but your son does not belong to you. He is life's expression of him itself. He is life's longing of itself. He has a journey unto himself. His vasanas determine his life. His temperament and personality has got nothing to do with you. Physically, he came from you. Physically, he may look like you, but his soul is free unto itself. Let's look at what Khalil Gibran says in his poem. It's a little poetic, so those of you who don't have that poetic bent of mind, forgive me, but you will enjoy it if you paid some attention to it. And Khalil Gibran says, your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they do not belong, they belong not to you. If you make a wrong assumption there, you've killed that relationship. You've killed your own peace of mind. You've killed that relationship. What does he say? They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself, life's expression of itself. They come through you, but not from you. And they are with you, but they belong not to you. You will be able to understand it if you consider you as a child of your parent, right? You are life's longing for itself, right? You are the self masquerading as yourself. You might have come through your parents, but you have not come from your parents. You understand that by now if you've been through in these classes. You've come through your parents, but you're not from your parents. Your life's longing for itself. You have your own vasanas that required projection. And in that projected world, the cause seems to be parents, but the parents were not the efficient cause. Just like in the dream we have seen, the dreamer also has dream parents. The dreamer, you came from the dream parents. You came through them and not from them. Because in truth, you were life's longing for itself. The waker in the bed who is sleeping, whatever his longing is what is expressed in the dream. Everybody in the dream belongs to the waker's mind, without exception. There is a joke which says that there is a lady who's dreaming, and in the dream, she's running and somebody is chasing her, and there is this very, very scary looking man with a knife who's chasing her, who's blood dripping on his face and ghostly. She reaches the corner. She has nowhere else to run. So she turns around and she asks him in all fear, what are you going to do with me? What are you going to do with me? And he says, madam, it's your dream. You should decide. So in all this separation inside the dreamer's world is all in the mind of the same waker. So the ugly guy is also the same mind, and the person running is also in the same mind. Similarly, your children, don't assume them, don't create a attachment beyond the point of fault. Each person is life's longing for itself. What a beautiful phrase. Life's longing for itself. As long as there is demand, there will be supply. Your son has come to quench his demand, which originated outside your window of observation, outside his own window of observation. He has to fulfill his karmic duties. And therefore, he or she is trapped by the personality they have inherited. So, and though they are with you, yet they do not belong to you. Next paragraph. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. That's what he's saying. They've inherited their own heterogeneous personality, which they have punched through. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. Coming back. What is Kate Kanta Kaste Putra? Who is your wife? Who is your son? None of them are yours. None of them belong to you. None of them are from you. Nobody comes from you. Nobody goes from you. He begets not, nor is he begotten. One of the attributes of the self, of God, of Allah is he begets not, nor is he begotten. In truth, you beget not, nor are you begotten. In your unfalsified form, you have not been created by anybody, nor do you create anybody. You are that self in you. So who's your son? Who's your wife? Where is that point of possession beyond a point of fault is this question. Samsara is strange, he's saying. Samsara is very strange. It creates these illusions. But ponder over these truths here of whom are you? Where have you come from? What is your efficient cause? Etc. etc. Satsangatve nitsangatvam. Nitsangatve nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nischalatatvam. Nischalatatve jivan mukti. It's probably how Adi Shankara is saying. How do you do that? When you're so caught, balastava the krida sakta, you're so caught. But we have said that you have to ponder over these questions. So how do you allow yourself to do that? He says you have to start with satsanga. There is no other way you can start but with satsanga. What is satsang? Sat is sattva. Sangam is the environment, is where you push yourself to. The more you're able to curate an environment of satsang for yourself, satsangatve nitsangatvam. With the satsang comes non-attachment to things that you feel that you cannot do without today. Just taking away yourself from those environments and pushing yourself to the right environments brings non-attachment immediately. But you have to give yourself a chance to do that. That's the point here. So he says satsangatvam nitsangatvam, which is from satsang comes non-attachment. It is from that non-attachment comes freedom from delusion. Delusion is vikshepa, freedom from delusion. It is from freedom of delusion that leads to self-sufficiency. It is from self-sufficiency alone comes jivan mukti. So if you go reverse direction here, for jivan mukti, which is moksha, jivan mukti is attainment of mukti, attainment of oneness, self-realization. A precondition for jivan mukti is self-sufficiency, nischala tattva. We have seen self-sufficiency time and again in this class, where there are no demands. You are content as you are. You don't mind what happens. All of that is self-sufficiency. You are motiveless. When you have no demand, there is no supply that's required. So that is jivan mukti. The end obliteration of samsara, obliteration of birth after birth and death after death. What leads to self-sufficiency? You have to be free of delusion. You cannot be in delusion and be self-sufficient. You cannot see the rope as a snake and yet be self-sufficient with no fear. To bring in fearlessness, you have to first have freedom of the delusion of seeing a snake. So to seek self-sufficiency, seek liberation from delusion. What is the precondition for removing delusion? For removing delusion, you should be detached. You cannot have a high degree of attachment and then also remove delusion. How is that possible? Whatever you attached, you're going to see as true. It is very difficult to be attached and remove delusion. So to remove delusion comes from a precondition of non-attachment. The question is, but I'm very attached. I have a heterogeneous personality of sattva, rajas, tamas. I'm attached to whatever the supply provides to fulfill each of these gunas. Says, how do I be non-attached? From curating the right environment for yourself. That's why satsangatve nitsangatva, nitsangatve nirmohatva, nirmohatve nischalatatva, nischalatatve jivan mukti, the road to liberation. Straight is the path, narrow is the road. And that curation of that road begins with satsanga. That's the meaning of the very famous sloka, satsangatve nitsangatva. It is only with a good environment that you will achieve non-attachment. You see, it's like that psychological theory. You might have heard of the broken window theory. Some of you, if you read psychology and all of that. Think of your own house. If you enter a place where it's already impure and dirty, and I'm talking only about the physical part here. If you enter a house which is already dirty and things are lying on the floor and there is, things on the wall and etc., and you have a little tissue paper in your hand which you have to dispose. How easy it is to just, dispose it in that room. It's very easy because you're not adding any extra impurity to that room. The room is always dirty and you're just throwing that little tissue paper there. And you don't even see it's wrong to do that. But suppose you enter a very, very pure room, which is filled with a great odor, great fragrance, which has perfectly aesthetic dimensions, pristine, clear, not a little piece of dirt. And you have this little tissue paper in your hand. Even the greatest, even a very tamasic person will cringe a little before throwing the tissue paper. Even a tamasic person who would otherwise spit here or throw things there, etc. If you take him to that spirit of cleanliness as a curated environment, even he will think twice before throwing that piece of paper there. Even a sattvic person may give in to that temptation of throwing that piece of paper in an otherwise dirty, polluted environment. That's satsang. You're not as strong as you think. I'm not as strong as I think. Our environment is quietly determining our future. We think we are doing it ourselves. No, Adi Shankara says it's the Sangam that's determining your future. It's like YouTube or algorithms, no? Is the biggest debate in America a few years ago was how much is Facebook and YouTube algorithms determining election results? Meaning, is Google and YouTube and Facebook, suppose they change their algorithm a little to be a little left-winged, for example, right? These are just examples to prove a point. Suppose Google decides, let's push more pro-democratic news feed to people, right? There are two parties, right? Democrats and Republicans in the US. I don't want to take India example. It's too controversial. So let's take American examples. Google decides, let's push a little Democrat favoring news articles. It says, for example, a 2016 election, it is like Hillary Clinton donated this. Hillary Clinton is blah, blah, blah. Just Google algorithm, like 0.001 shift, it just pushes more democratic news articles. Now, it creates a huge change in the election results. But everybody, when interviewed with a question of, have you taken decision on your own basis or has somebody influenced you? What are you saying? I'm a free person. I take my own decisions. I have blah, blah, blah. But there has been a 30% change in vote because of a slight change in algorithm by Google. Then this is not my own making. You can see the controversy, the files, all the congressional hearings. It's all on YouTube. You can see how actually social media and can change. Like I gave the example of Instagram. In the Facebook files, what was brought out by the Wall Street Journal a few months ago about Facebook and Instagram, it says that over 20% of teenage girls attribute Instagram for suicidal tendencies. Now these girls are not going to say that Instagram controls my life. They say, no, I have a free will. I really feel bad. I really want that boyfriend. I really want to hear this, etc., etc. But they are a slave to the product of that environment. Right? 40 years ago, a girl did not say that in her 13. So human beings haven't evolved too much in 40 years. Where did this new needs come from? Product of environment, right? That's so we don't give enough credit to how important factors influence us in shaping us. We take too much of pride that no, it's free will. So the first step, Adi Shankara says 1300 years ago, is that satsangatve nitsangat. Just like algorithms, the more you have demands, it starts with innocent supply. Some people who are very politically savvy in India, not savvy, politically interested in India, their YouTube is full of suggestions of all venomous. Whether you may be far right wing, far left wing, it doesn't matter. But it just keeps pushing content to affirm your thoughts again and again and again, and it only gets stronger over time, stronger over time. An innocent demand might have started one video that you searched for. Okay, let's see what this person is trying to say. And then the algorithm latches to it because the artificial intelligence thinks that you're interested in those. So it pushes a little more. So you watch 2, you watch 3, you watch 4. 6 months from then, when you're in the bathroom, when you're here, all you're hearing is YouTube videos put on loudspeaker, even when you're in the bathroom, because the content is luring. And over time, not only have you listened to those, you start believing in that particular viewpoint as well. Who knows if it had started with that innocent search of the other side opinion, over 6 months, you might have become a huge supporter of that other side. Who knows? Satsangatve nitsangat. It's satsang that determines our experience of life. So just like that, the algorithms, life is also like that. Life is also like that. You have to nip things in the bud. Otherwise it becomes samsara with as monsters. So it starts with satsang. How do you keep drawing yourself to satsang? How do you keep satsang? Doesn't mean meeting people for bhajan. Please don't have that misinterpreted. Satsang means purifying your environment how much ever you can. Purifying your physical environment, purifying your emotional environment, purifying your intellectual environment, purifying your spiritual environment, which helps you stay at peace as sthita prajna, with ease, without having to face headwinds of that. Well, you may say that I'm strong enough that I can go to a very dirty house and still hold myself from dropping the tissue paper. That is fine. But there's an easy way out. Keep your house clean and you may not feel like dropping that as well. So satsangatve is what Adi Shankara says. Let's end with the last 2 slokas. What good is lust when youth is fled? What use is a lake which has no water? Where are the relatives when wealth is gone? Where is samsara when the truth is known? These are great analogies to see how dependent something is on the other. Right? So, upon condition of youth, by youth it means physical providence. Upon availability of youth, is lust relevant? Upon availability of water is what makes a lake a lake. What use is a lake which has no water? You may call it a lake, but it's that water that determines the lake. Where are the relatives upon conditionality of wealth? When there's a by relatives, I mean people in general, right? Where are relatives when wealth is gone? Where is samsara when the truth is gone? No. Such beautiful poetry here. Such beautiful poetry. What is the conditionality required to quench lust? Youth. What is the conditionality for a lake to be useful? It's water. What is the conditionality that attracts people towards you? It's what value you have to offer. Without value, there are no people around you. Similarly, where is samsara when truth is known? What is the conditionality required for samsara to exist? Ignorance. Where is samsara when truth is known? There is no samsara. There is no bondage. There is no liberation. At the moment, you're free. If only you would keep your ego out and realize that self is what Adi Shankara is saying. In 2015, I happened to be in Las Vegas, and there was the World Championship of Public Speaking happening. And I got this nice trophy as the second prize winner and stuff. So after that, from Vegas, I was going to San Francisco to be with my cousin for a few days. And I spent 6 days in Vegas, Caesar's Palace at the International Convention, the World Champion of Public Speaking. And there, obviously, after the competition, everybody wants to take photos, selfies, autographs and stuff. It's a typical thing, right? It's the 3 people who won the top 3 prizes. People want to, that's your moment of glory that you can enjoy. So people, every time they stand with you, they have this request, can you also bring that trophy in that picture? Right? So you also pull that they want the picture with you and them, but also the trophy in it so that it can be a trio picture. So that itself, the value is not for you. The value is for the position, first prize or second prize. The value is for the trophy which validates that position. There itself, you understand that you are incidental. Like if you were in second, if some other guy was second, he would be standing there. So the value is for the position. The value is not for you. There itself, the ego should drop. Firstly, there itself the ego should drop. This got nothing to do with Aditya. It's got to do with the position. So even if Aditya is there, he wants the trophy in that picture. And it need not have been Aditya, it could have been anybody else. So the adulation is for the person who wins. Adulation is not for you. You just happen to be in that position. That's number one. Then what happens? So that 1.5 days between the finals of the World Championship and the end of the conference, there's a lot of adulation, and that people want to hold that trophy, people want to, pose with it, and etc. Sometimes people say, we are a group from, say, Thailand, can we have your trophy to take a picture? And I give them the trophy. They say, you can stay there, we just want a picture with the trophy. So they take it and give it back. Everybody likes to hold that trophy, right? Because in their minds, they are visualizing one day when they can hold the trophy. So I'm incidental. But anyway, the trophy had a lot of value. So after that, I took a flight to San Francisco to be with my cousin who works there for 3 or 4 days before I returned to Mumbai at that time. So in the flight, this was quite a big trophy, and that was precious. And the stupidity of the organizers is that they just give you that glass trophy without giving the original, I'm sure, the padded carton or cover that it came in. So how do I carry this without scratching it or breaking it? So I put it in a separate plastic cover, took it with me. I didn't check it in. I didn't put it in the, in the cabin. And then this lady air hostess in the flight, I think it was Southwest Airlines. She comes to me and says, sir, no plastic or glass on your laps. And I told her, this is not glass. This is World Championship trophy. She looked at me and said, sir, whatever it is, no glass on your lap, sir. So you don't know the difference between glass. This journey, this trophy has traveled for 1.5 days. People were dying to take photos with it. People were dying to hold it. People were like worshipping this trophy. But for this lady, it's a piece of glass, right? What does she care about World Championship or what crap? For her, she's an air hostess. She can't take the flight. She can't give a go-ahead for takeoff when people have stuff in their lap. They should either keep it in the cabin or below the seat in front of them. That's the rule we've all heard. After takeoff, you can hug it, cuddle it all over. But during takeoff, you have to tug it away. So for her, that and a glass to drink water is one and the same. What difference does she see? I see a big difference. It's my trophy. But for her, a glass is a glass. So you see, samsara is strange. So when we nip things in the bud, our objectivity restores. Ma kuru dhana jana yauvana garbham harati nimeshat kalasar maya mayamidam akhilam hitva brahma padam tvam pravisha viditva. We've seen the sloka in the first or second class of Kathopanishad. Do not boast of all of these things that we've discussed now. Harati nimeshat kalasar. Within the blink of an eye, these are taken away from you. Each of these are destroyed within a minute. Free yourself from the illusion of the world of Maya and attain the timeless truth. Daylight and darkness, dusk and dawn, winter and springtime come and go. Kala kridati kachatavayu. Time, place, and life ebbs away. But the storm of desire never seems to leave us. Dark, it's like dark slokas. Think of the profundity of this. Kala kridati kachatya. Daylight and darkness come and go, come and go, come and go. Before you know, it's 60 years gone. Dusk and dawn come and go, come and go. Each ebbs away. Winter and springtime come and go, come and go. As in Les Miserables, one of my favorite theater plays and books, Les Miserables. Main character Jean Valjean sings in realization towards the end of his life. The summers die one by one. How soon they pass on and on. Now I am old and will be gone. So it's a beautiful, beautiful rendition. It's like in theater. The summers die one by one. How soon they pass on. And I am old and will be gone. He goes on and on stage. It's like suddenly you feel 40 summers have passed, 50 summers have passed, 80 summers have passed. Every summer it's like nice and fresh and enjoying all the Cadbury may tell you, oh, it's winter, so eat a chocolate. It's spring, you buy this gift, buy this Archie card. Everybody's determining, but before you know it, summers have passed, right? Kala kridati. This is the play of time. Time, place, and life is slowly ebbing away. But the storm of desire never leaves. Storm of desire means that vanity and hope and the desire never leaves. When are you going to focus on Bhaja Govindam and the truth? That will protect you, is what Adi Shankara says. So, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate Samprapte Sanhinite Kale Samprapte Sanhinite Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrun Karane Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrun Karane Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. With that, we will end today's class. Just to reiterate, as Dr. Sharmani also rightly put on chat, the purpose of Bhaja Govindam is Manana Stotra. It is not, there's nothing new we would have discussed today, unlike a Bhagavad Gita class. It is to live in the joy of that reflection, without personalizing it too much and feeling bad about what Shankara says. it is to reflect and contemplate. On that note, be in touch, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya.